Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some topical insights, and I focus on both relationships and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell to see when I will post a new video. And also, if you're interested in a personal consultation, I do consultations on a wide variety of subjects. Please check out the video description. I will leave the contact information there. Thank you. So for today's video, I am gonna start doing a series on the different Arudha Lagnas. So I will not go through again what Arudha Lagna means. I will link the videos in the video description. I've made two of them now, so one of them is a short description of what it is, how to calculate it, and why it's important, and then there is a more in-depth video on Arudha Lagna and comparison to Karakamsha and Swamsa Lagnas. And now just to get into the Aries Arudha Lagna. So how do people perceive you if you are an Aries Arudha Lagna? Now, basically, I'm going to be thinking not just about the actual Arudha Lagna, and I'm also going to be thinking about several placements from the Arudha Lagna that are key in determining your personality, namely the 3rd and the 7th house. The planets and the signs that are on the Arudha Lagna, the sign that is directly opposite the Arudha Lagna, and the sign that sits on the 3rd house from the Arudha Lagna. These are the most important energies that people will perceive about you. Now, I'm not going to get into what happens when different planets are there. This is just going to be a general description. Obviously, if there are planets sitting in these houses, or in any house from the Arudha Lagna, it will change the general description depending on the planet in question, depending on aspects and all that stuff. But just a general description. So if you're an Aries Arudha Lagna, people will perceive you as somebody who is very, first of all, you tend to stand out. You tend to have a very strong energy. People will perceive you as somebody who is quite tough, quite strong. Even though you may not, try to stand out, people will see you as somebody who is a leader, a pioneer, somebody who can easily, go after what they want and get it. And people also, conversely, see you as somebody who is quite soft-spoken, because Taurus is sitting on the 2nd house from the Arudha Lagna, which means that Venus is ruling the 2nd house. So you tend to be perceived as somebody who's quite diplomatic, quite soft-spoken, somebody who, even though comes across as a strong personality, applies the principle of you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And you're also seen as really clever when it comes to going after what you want. And this is because Gemini is sitting on the 3rd from the Arudha Lagna. And this basically means that people see you as somebody who, again, you're very clever. So not necessarily somebody who is, very strong or comes forwardly very strong in, getting what they want, or in their projection in the world. You don't necessarily come off as a very threatening individual unless there are other influences showing that. But most likely you're just seen as somebody who can slither their way through obstacles, somebody who's maybe a little bit sly and clever in the sense that you can solve problems without too much effort being spent. People also perceive you as somebody who's really attached to their home, because Cancer is on the 4th from the Arudha Lagna, so they perceive your family life to be relatively stable. Whether this is true or not, of course, doesn't really matter, because the Arudha is in the business of illusion. So this is what people perceive of you. People are also going to perceive you as having, wonderful children. Your children are going to be seen as creative and passionate, and because Leo is on the 5th house, so they're going to be seen as children that will make you proud, that will make you look good in society. So people will generally tend to envy you for your children. Because Virgo is on the 6th house, the 6th house from the Arudha Lagna shows how you are perceived to treat your enemies. And again, Virgo being on the 6th house shows that people will see you as somebody who's very clever in dealing with their enemies. So you're not going to necessarily be perceived as somebody who, is going to hit hard into their enemies, but rather somebody who, again, can be very sly, can try to outsmart the competition. And oftentimes you are perceived as, kind of makes me feel, kind of gives me a vibe of, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, somebody, well, that's a really extreme example, but somebody who's more like that rather than somebody who just uses brute force and direct opposition to deal with their adversaries. Because the 7th from the Arudha Lagna for you is in Libra, shows that people will perceive your spouse as, or your romantic partner as very refined, good-looking, oftentimes very sensuous, intellectual, diplomatic, very nice. It also shows that the class of people that will oppose you directly are going to be people who are in the arts, people who are in trades, so business people, especially people who have to do with negotiations on their day-to-day occupations on a daily basis or on a regular basis. People who will directly oppose you also include young women, so women who are not mothers yet. This is true for you regardless if you're a man or a woman. So you can encounter women who will directly oppose you, who will tell you that to your face that they don't like you, or like they, in some way will basically stand in your way. The 8th from the Arudha Lagna for you is in Scorpio. This shows that people will see you as a really healthy, robust individual. Not necessarily robust in the sense that you come across as, really tough and muscular, but rather you come across as somebody who can take on a lot of hits, can take a lot of hits and then keep regenerating every time. So you're somebody who's seen as a very strong, from the health perspective. Again, depending on what other planets might be aspecting this situation. But you're going to be perceived as somebody who can easily recuperate from an illness or an accident or something like that. Somebody who can take a lot of hits health-wise and keep regenerating. And most likely you're also going to be perceived as somebody who's likely to be, going to have a long life, somebody who's going to have a long lifespan. And so the 9th from the Arudha is in Sagittarius. This shows that the class of people who will most likely help you in life are people who are religious, people who are spiritual. This could literally be people who are involved with religious organizations. It can also be teachers, professors, university professors, people involved in higher knowledge, philosophy, publishing, foreign travel as well, travel agencies. These are things that are important to take into account when it comes to, for instance, your profession. Because if you want to, start a business, for instance, or if you want to, most likely when you want to start a business, for instance, you want to go for the group of people that are most likely to support you, because those are going to be your key audience when it comes to selling a product, for instance. The 10th house from the Arudha Lagna for you is in Capricorn. This shows that you're going to be perceived as somebody who has a slow and steady climb to the top of the social ladder. Because Capricorn shows thorough effort, it shows discipline, and you're somebody who looks like, again, you are very determined in your career. Most likely you're going to be perceived as somebody who has a very solid social status, and like somebody who, is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So somebody who has like a chance of having a long-lasting career. And this is oftentimes because you are perceived to be, somebody who's very disciplined about their career and about their social aspirations. Again, this is all about how people perceive you. The reality might be different, but this is how you're going to be perceived. And also you could do very well in things to do with basically any kind of leadership position, but especially things like administration or, government authorities, state rulership, legislation, so lawyers, judges, that kind of thing. and any kind of administrative jobs, any administrative professions, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And the 11th house from the Arudha Lagna falls in Aquarius. This shows that people will perceive your friends to be unusual, or people who are unorthodox in some way. Sometimes could be people from foreign cultures. Another thing that the 11th from the Arudha shows is your gains. And 11th from the Arudha being ruled by Saturn and Rahu, this shows that you are better off having regular income rather than, for instance, working in something that implies taking commission or having some kind of like unsteady source of income. So you're better off having a steady source of income. The 12th from the Arudha Lagna shows losses and hidden enemies. And in your case, that falls in Pisces. This shows that hidden enemies can also come from the groups of people that are religiously inclined, but more than Sagittarius, Pisces is about people who rely on faith, who rely on intuition, people who are psychic. It also rules faraway lands, so people that maybe come from faraway lands. So these are people who are hidden enemies. On the other hand, it also rules losses. So the 12th from the Arudha shows losses. And this is not a particularly bad placement, because Jupiter being here can show that in case you lose your job, or like in case a contract ends, or in case you sue somebody, or you're in any kind of dispute, you have a higher chance than average to gain decent compensation, monetary compensation. And yeah, that's pretty much the general description for Aries Arudha Lagna. And just to give you some examples of famous Aries Arudha Lagna, Twiggy, David Bowie, let me see, Daniel Day-Lewis, Eva Green, Nicole Kidman, and Teal Swan if your time of birth is accurate. These are just a few examples, just to give you a general idea of the kind of energy you are giving off. And I hope this has been useful, and I hope you have appreciated the information. And if you liked it and you would like to hear more content from me, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. And please, if you have any kind of feedback, please comment in the comment section if you would like to hear any other topics that I might cover in the future. And also, if you're interested in a personal consultation, please check out the video description. I have left the information there. So thank you.